Have you ever met an entrepreneur that you're always wondering, how do they get so much done in the same amount of time that I have in a day? Well, the answer to that is systems, having a clear vision, outsourcing some of the work that you might not be best suited for, and creating strategic partnerships. That's exactly the conversation that we're going to have here today. My name is Ryan Richards. I'm the host of the Long Game podcast, where we focus on unveiling the curtain into the minds of operators, understanding how business owners and entrepreneurs think when the vision is bigger than just income. Growth and scale require strategic decisions and a different approach to the day-to-day work. And that's the exact conversation we get into today with Tony and Ashley Eisenhauer. They're a power couple based out of Northern Connecticut, and they're taking on multiple different ventures and growing very rapidly. They have a focus around real estate, whether that's fix and flip, long-term multifamily investments, or their newest ventures, short-term rentals and staging homes. In order to take on all of those things at once, you have to have the right systems, the right people, and the right plan in place to execute. Tony and Ashley do it with a vision that's bigger than themselves. We talk a lot about purpose on this show, having something that you're aiming for that's bigger than just a number. Tony and Ashley dive through what they're doing systematically to accomplish their objectives, how they think about their business, and what their long-term vision is, with their newest objective becoming taking on new mentors to help show them how to get involved in short-term rentals, how to buy multifamily properties with creative finance and low and no money down, but really just make an impact. So if this conversation sounds enticing to you, then you're in the right place, and enjoy the show. Please join me in welcoming Tony and Ashley Eisenhauer to the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, bro. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. Glad to have you back on with your better half.
Yes.
Glad you know it.
It's her first podcast, too, so she's excited.
Yeah, very.
I'm sure we'll have an awesome conversation. I know we align on a lot of things, which is, I admire how you guys look at business and what you're building, and I think from my perspective, even now would be a nice time to talk about some of those changes you guys are having, especially with the vision for the podcast. I think with the direction we're heading, what I've learned over time with the real estate lens, starting to interview business owners, entrepreneurs, at some point the conversation changes. Mm-hmm. You go from mastering the skill, doing the work, it becomes higher output means higher input. I have to do more work to do more.
Right.
But then you start to shift and you start to create, okay, well, I can't sustain this for the long term. And if I want to scale, I have to add some systems, some different people, and focus on different things in the business.
Yeah.
So for you guys right now, talk a little bit about what you're working on and how, if that mindset shift is playing into your decisions, and how you guys kind of got started to where you are right now.
Yeah.
Sure. Over the last year, we really focused particularly on an Airbnb, and for us, we consumed so much different content, and then we got to the point where we want to teach others that content as well.
Yeah.
Which that came out awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
You guys crushed that design.
Ton of work.
Thank you.
She did all the design and colors and stuff. That's over my head.
The rehab of the project was something that was like a huge learning curve for us, and even having like a fix and flip background, it was still a struggle for us to navigate that, because it wasn't the typical fix and flip. It was going to be something that we held on to, so choices were made differently.
Contractors up, like not in your backyard where we're doing in our normal market. Right. Up there in the valley, they call it, of New Hampshire, it's like good contractors are busy for like a year out. So you kind of have to find like the guy that's not a terrible contractor, but he's also available. So like we had to navigate that for plumbers, electricians, and all that stuff. We ended up actually having to bring contractors from Worcester to go stay up there for weeks at a time to do a ton of the work.
No kidding. So for context, most of your primary focus for the last few years was fix and flip.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you were doing that in central Massachusetts, Northern Connecticut. And this new Airbnb was up in New Hampshire.
Yeah, North Conway.
So finding that new team is a little bit different.
Yeah, it was a challenge.
Yeah, and now we want to be able to help other individuals with launching an Airbnb as well, putting everything that we collectively learned for system and processes into like one central spot where we can educate others as well, because we've collected so many things from different mentorships and different individuals, plus personal experience. And the same for design and picking a property that's really going to be the best fit in that particular market. So we're also really passionate about teaching the items that we've learned. We know that by giving back and helping others, that's when we see the biggest return.
Yeah, I would say too, we found a huge opportunity with, like, when you sign up for a mentorship, at least the ones that we have, we've spent over 6 figures on mentorships over the past couple years. You're kind of like a number in a sense. You know, there's a lot of people in those mentorships, and yes, you learn a lot, and yes, you get the curriculum and the activity and stuff, but you don't really necessarily get like a one-on-one hand-holding process. So we were like, what if we could just take on like 5 to 7 people to start, literally hold their hand from analyzing a market, to underwriting a house, to design, to systems, to processes, like literally day one to launch. What if we could just hold your hand through that whole process? So we think there's a ton of value with that, instead of paying for the same, if not more money, to sign up for one of these bigger mentorships where you're just kind of another number.
That's awesome. And I do feel like you, as a mentor, you learn from your mentees as well.
Yeah.
Because their perspectives are so different, their questions are so different, and you might even refine some of your systems because of the things that they say.
People will come in with definitely ideas that will influence the way we operate too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that in general. I think it's awesome when you find opportunities to give back to people, and I think that's part of the goal with the show, is just share stories, share insights, and help other people figure out how they can refine their systems or things they can do better, or maybe partner with you guys, as a mentee on a short-term rental.
Yeah.
And for us, a big driver in getting the Airbnb was its tax benefits. So for us, we want to help people be able to save on their taxes, and the STR, short-term loophole, is definitely a way that we can additionally help them. So our clientele might be people who are already in real estate or like the W-2 earners, but it's going to benefit them in more ways than just having an additional item in their portfolio.
That's awesome. And I think for context, that short-term rental loophole, that's actually one of the reasons I want to get into short-term rentals. But for those who don't know, the short-term rental loophole, essentially, what's different compared to long-term rentals is long-term rentals, a lot of the tax benefits, the depreciation, the additional deductions can only offset your other passive income.
Correct.
But with short-term rental, if you meet some criteria, you can actually use that loss to offset your active income. Which is a huge difference for a lot of people.
Huge, yeah. I mean, if you were going to write a check to the IRS for $50,000 for your taxes, and you instead put that into a property that you can now cash flow, get the appreciation and the bonus, bonus depreciation, all that good stuff. Yeah,
that's awesome. So that was your primary focus with shifting to Airbnb, was just
that was our main driver.
Some more tax deductions.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a great asset class. I think even for the working individual who works 40, 50, 60 hours a week, we kind of system, with our systems and operations, we kind of streamlined it to, you might spend an hour, 2 hours a week managing this thing. So like, it's pretty hands off, and the benefits are bar to none.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so I want to talk a little bit more about you guys too in this conversation, because I think it's awesome. You guys you grew up together, you're building businesses, and you're taking on more. So what's the dynamic like with the roles? Do you have certain things you do you each do better?
Who's going to define those roles? So I run our books as best as I can, keep track of what's coming in for rent and are paying those bills. We both monitor together our budgets on our fix and flips. We analyze deals together. We were talking about that on the way here, and that's one of the ways we complement each other working together, is having those opportunities to run through and analyze a deal out loud together, whiteboard it out. We both really enjoy that experience, and I learn a lot from it. He might be doing that more on a daily basis, but I always learn quite a bit from those conversations.
Yeah, I would say, just to get on a little deeper level too, to bring things back, I think we work so well is because, like, from day one when we met, we basically, well, not day one, but from the beginning, like our goal was our values and all of our stuff was aligned, right? Like we knew someday we wanted to have a family.
And this was at age 15
Yeah.
and 16.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we sophomore year in high school,
Yeah.
we met.
So it's been about 20 years.
Yeah.
Married 12.
It
Yeah.
looks like it's working out great for you guys. So
It
that's
is.
awesome.
It's not all easy either.
No.
Like we have grown up together, so there's a huge learning curve there. But I think that's given us an advantage.
Yeah, absolutely, because we've grown together, as one. But I would say, so like, our goals were always to have kids and for her to stay home, be able to stay home with the kids, right, and raise the kids, because we both came from broken, our parents were both split up when we were young, and we knew we didn't want that for our kids.
Yeah, that was like the one main thing for us, both having divorced parents, like knowing that we were going to do whatever we needed to in our relationship to make sure that never occurred with our kids. And then, like he said, being a stay-at-home mom was always a goal as well, and neither of us had that growing up. But then being in that role when my kids were little, it's really hard not to lose yourself as a stay-at-home parent. So you have to be thankful for that time, but also make sure you're fulfilling your own personal needs. So that is where some of my business role came from as well. Tony knows that I have a passion for design, so him ensuring that I got to express myself and help on our projects that way was really important.
Yeah, it started out with the fix and flip. She did all the design and staging, that type of stuff,
Yeah.
which, to be completely honest, it like moves the needle for the fix and flips.
Absolutely.
Yeah, big time.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's kind of transformed into, she started a staging company. We stage homes with Ben and Brooke.
Which is super exciting, and I'm loving that.
Yeah, that's a nice. It goes really well with your businesses that you already have, and
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, they struggle with. Your situation's a little different, where you guys, are business and life partners. So you don't always get that combination.
Right.
But I think fundamentally, like at some point in any entrepreneur's journey, there's like the necessity to bring on a partner. I'd love to hear your perspective on advice for people who are looking for that business partner. Like, what are some conversations you should be having, and what should you look for in a business partner?
I think that you have to identify the areas that you need help with, that you want that person to be strong in so that you can support one another, but also not be so completely opposite that it ends up being a conflict. So
Yeah.
you also do have to have similar morals and values and things in common with that person.
Yeah, I would say try to find a great book to read, by the way, is Rocket Fuel on this. Basically, there's integrators and visionaries. And typically, you don't want to have like two visionaries. You're just going to butt heads, or two operators, So I would say try to find whatever you are great at, focus and go all in on that. And then whatever you're not good at, try to find that person.
Someone who is.
So you can
Someone who
complement each other.
Yeah, and I think I'm similar with my fiance Brooke. It's very similar. We talk about a lot of the same things, the deal underwriting. We do a lot of things together, but her skill set completely complements mine.
Right.
She's really good at design. She's really good at pricing.
Which your house that you just did amazing, bro.
So
Thank
beautiful.
you. I can't take any credit for it. But I'll tell you, when the contractor said, "Hey, show up, I have some questions," that's my role. So, we each have our roles, but I'm grateful that it's also my life partner. I think, that's the ideal situation. If you can, find someone to build with on both sides,
Yeah.
I think that's
And to
that's
enjoy
awesome.
those wins with, that's always so exciting when you are celebrating a moment in your business together.
Yeah.
It makes it more special.
Absolutely, especially when you're doing so many different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially for you guys with the new pivot to short-term rentals. I want to circle back a little bit to that.
Sure.
So, fix and flips obviously require a lot of systems.
Yep.
So does Airbnb. Talk me through your mindset, because time's finite. We only have so many hours in the day, and it's funny if you put everything you do down on paper, you probably ask the same question anyone else would: how do you have time for all this?
Right.
So talk me through the systems mindset. Like, what were some things you were looking at when you were in your fix and flip business, in the short-term rentals? What are some of those systems that you input that start to help you operate more efficiently and give you some room to continue to do more?
Yeah.
I would say that's your wheelhouse. You really love the systems and automations. I think that's what made Airbnb so appealing for us, was that you could set so many things up that can happen without you doing all of them manually yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say too, the first one's the hardest one, right? Like once you get those systems in place, it's just rinse and repeat.
Right.
So the first one's the hardest one, and then, you know, if you have 1 versus 10, it's really not that much more work, if you know what I mean, because you already have the systems and operations in place.
Right.
That's what's cool about it.
No, that's nice. And I feel like for a lot of people, they struggle with the concept. Like you look at systems, if you're someone who hasn't built it, and especially at this phase, I always think entrepreneurs go through phases, like we were talking about when we started the show. So you go through the phase of doing the work, you know, grinding, putting in the hours, and then you get to the point of capacity.
Yep.
All right, chapter 1 closed. Now you have to relearn a whole new set of skills, how to be an operator, how to run a business, and then now you're focused on systems. But from a high level, if you're standing on the top of a mountain looking down at systems as this big canyon, you have no idea where to start.
Right.
And I think for me, it's something, that's where I'm at, is my phase, and aligns with the podcast, is those systems, thinking like an operator, not just a worker. And it's a different mindset shift. But something that I've found helpful, I'm curious if you have any helpful tips for people who are going through this progression, but starting with one thing. So I always equate it to, I don't know if you've ever read the book Atomic Habits.
No.
Great book. So it talks about building that cornerstone habit that you build the rest of your day off of. So for example, that might be when you get, when you wake up, you go right to brushing your teeth, drink a glass of water. If you at least have those 2 steps down consistently every day, well, all you have to do is add something after that.
Right.
So it's the same thing with systems, where if you're struggling with a CRM, well, don't worry about building a 52-week email campaign. Just focus on the first email. I have an automated email that goes out every Monday, with news updates. Perfect. Then add the next one. So I think for me, that's always helped to break it down in those blocks of start with the one foundational piece and then build on the extra stuff.
Yeah, that's huge.
What type of thoughts do you guys have on that discussion?
I think what you just said is huge. People get analysis paralysis, right? They just get stuck. They don't do anything. But if you literally just take action, if you take one step, like that's where your momentum builds, right? That's where, like you said, habits build. So literally just taking any step, whether you're going to fall on your face, it's still a step, right? So I think that's important.
It's super important. It's a lot like the gym too. I use the gym in a lot of analogies, but if you just show up to the gym, you're 95% there.
Exactly.
But if you don't end up ever getting there, well, you can't fine tune your workout because you never get there.
Right.
So it's like pick that one thing that you always do and then kind of build off of it.
Yeah. I think working out's always a great way to relate to business too, because it's like same thing. People, they're like, well, I don't know if I should work my arms, my legs, my shoulders. Like, I don't know how to work out. Right. So they don't do any of it. But it's like if you just went to the gym and walked on the treadmill for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, like you're still making progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the consistency is more important than the actual input, the work you're doing.
Right.
Which I think is huge.
Just touching on like growth within your business, like you said, and knowing when things need to change. Tony was realizing that with our fix and flips, like he was physically doing too much of it, and he knew that there were better people to put in place to do certain projects within the house. He literally sold his truck so that he put himself in a car because he needed to be driving around and looking at more properties, not running to Home Depot and picking up stuff. So he forced himself to just be in a car, and not that he hasn't put way too many things in the Teslas, but it definitely helped with that learning curve. So there are steps you can take in life to help push yourself in the right direction.
That's awesome, because I actually went through the same thought process. I almost bought a pickup truck, and I said the same thing, like that's
not your role.
Too enabling, right? I don't want to put anything in my car. It's not my job.
Right.
And so that was a defining moment for you, it sounds like, where you decided it's not your best fit to be doing these types of roles.
He realized he could make better decisions for our business by being in the office more, and so he had to put himself in the office more or viewing more properties and not on the job site.
Yeah, just some context there too. I would say, like you said earlier about growth, right? Like you start a business, you wear all the hats, right? You operate it, you underwrite it, you do the back end work, everything's on you. Now, if you want to grow that business, you have to step out at some point, right? And look in and say, who can I put in these places that can efficiently run this so I can go out and get another business or another house, whatever it is, and we can keep this going. Because at the end of the day, if I'm swinging the hammer, if I'm installing the cabinets and the floors and all that stuff, yes, I'll save a ton of money. But at the end of the day, where do I make the most money? I make the most money when I find good deals. And then I bring in the contractors to do the work and say, hey, after this one, we have another one lined up, ready to go. So instead of me making, let's just say I was going to make 20 grand on that first one if I did everything myself, now I can make 20, 20, 20, 20. I just made $100,000 because I had my systems in place to where I know where my value is, and that is finding good deals.
Yeah, that's super important.
There are other things that we are always teaching individuals too as their business and their life goals change, is buying back your time. So even in your personal life, you have to also realize what your time is valued at. So we've had those changes in our business, and we've also had those changes in our personal life at home. Like, he no longer mows the lawn. Like, he totally capable, had the best mower for it.
That was
but
another big...
Sell the mower, sold it to the landscaper. Yeah. It gave us more opportunity to work and or be with our kids, and the same with house cleaning. Like, it's not that I'm too good to clean my own home. It's that my time is valued at a certain point, and I should be spending it with my kids if I am home. Right. And so somebody else can do it better and more efficiently than me.
We hire a cleaning company to clean the house. It makes sense, right? I don't wash my car. I have somebody come clean my car, not because I'm better than that, but because, again, my time is valued at a certain price, and I know where I need to stay in my lane.
That's awesome. And I think both perspectives, it resonates with me entirely with where I'm at. I was joking, with Brooke the other day. Like, anything she says, well, can you do this? I'm like, no, I'll find someone. And I read an awesome book. It's called Who Not How.
Yeah.
Amazing book.
Amazing book, which I forget who the author is, but excellent book about this whole concept.
Yeah. And
I think sometimes it's a hard skill to learn because I don't want to call it the old school mentality, but the traditional mentality is and I hear my dad saying, if you want something right, done right, do it yourself.
Especially
100%.
If your parents lived and spoke that way all the time. That's the
that's
type of household we came from.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that we tell our parents this stuff now, and they're like, what are you doing? You're paying a cleaner to clean your house?
Crazy, right?
Somebody's cleaning your car? What is going on? Like, they literally don't understand.
Yeah, I fully hear what you're saying, fully relate.
So if you're already making those who not how choices, that's definitely going to benefit in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, so for someone who's hearing that and they're like, okay, I agree. Like, I think I should offload more stuff. Where should they start? Because I think a lot of times, even when you say your goal should be to buy back your time, like, how do you figure out what your time's worth and what things you should or should not trade off? The point that Tony mentioned earlier, I think, is really valid too, where you're focusing on certain tasks, your highest output or highest value tasks. But from a mentor perspective, what would you tell someone who's like, I want to do that, I agree, but I just don't know where to start?
I think it's case by case, right? Like, it depends on the person. If you're a regular 9 to 5 person, right? Obviously those hours you can't allocate anything for, you're at work. But 5 to 9, you have 4 hours there, right? Where you can figure out what you want to do next, have a side hustle. You can, I would say too, get your calendar straight. Like, this is huge. My mentor Pace talks about this extensively, and it changed his life, it changed our life. You have 24 hours. You should have a block for every hour, every minute in that calendar. And what Pace always says is, like, if you're serious about something, show me your calendar. So if you want to spend time with your family, do you have 2 hours blocked off just for your family in your calendar? If you want to work out, do you have an hour blocked off in your calendar to work out? Do you have 2 hours for underwriting deals in your calendar? Like, you need to have that stuff blocked off and be intentional with your time.
And that's also funny you say that, because that was a focus I had for the last few weeks, was revamping the calendar. I was talking to an executive assistant who runs basically like a family back office for a lot of high net worth individuals, and I was just talking to her about, how does she help these people stay alive?
Yeah.
You look at like Richard Branson or Patrick Bet-David. I mean, they have multiple 9-figure companies. How do they have time?
Musk. How do you?
Elon Musk, right? And you'll see him out at an event not checking his phone. I'm like, how is he doing this?
Yep.
It's intentional. And it's building the systems on the back end. But I think the calendar is a great recommendation. Then learning to follow it is another
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
one. But starting with the intention, I think, is a great step.
I would say too, when you block off an hour for underwriting deals or at the gym, that doesn't mean like you're sitting on the couch, looking at the gym, or you're on your phone scrolling while you're working out. No, that means like you have an hour to work out, so maximize that time. And same thing with like underwriting deals. If I have 2 hours in my calendar for underwriting deals, I'm not on my phone, I'm not checking Facebook. Like I am literally zoned in on that task. And it's amazing when you zone in what 2 hours can do compared to like a week of you just like looking at Facebook and not really zoned in on that.
Yeah, that's always really hard for me with the kids. Like when the kids are home, but I'm trying to be in the office. Sometimes I get to the point where I'm like, I just have to step away because I know I'm not doing this to its fullest potential
Yeah.
and what this really needs. So I just have to walk away, go dedicate some time with the kids, and then maybe come back when he's available to then keep an eye on them.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece too, because you have to be you have to be aware and then almost selfish with your time and your partner's time from that perspective, because there will be times where you're having, for example, Brooke will love Brooke to death. She'll walk in my office and start asking me a question about the wedding.
Right.
And I'm like, pretend I'm in a cubicle right
Seriously, yeah.
now. I said I think the best thing to do is let's set some time later.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this when I have full attention.
Right.
And it's a hard conversation.
It is.
And especially with loved ones, but with clients too. If I have an hour blocked off, which I'm getting better at this. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I'm getting better. If I have an hour blocked off for lead generation,
Yeah.
well, if a client calls me, I actually will just send an automated text that, hey, I'm in a meeting right now. I'll get back to you, within 1 to 2 hours.
Yeah.
So at least they know, okay, I'm getting back to them.
Yep.
But for the longest time, client calls, I could be, on a bike going down a hill and I'll answer the phone.
Yeah.
But it's an innate trait, but you have to learn a new skill to actually say, well, this is better for my business and ultimately for the client too, because they don't want me to be on the phone with them half listening,
Yeah. Right.
answering an email, while taking notes and doing whatever I might be doing.
I love the scheduling feature of a text message. I was utilizing that last night. I was
Yeah.
on the computer at like 11:30 p.m. I'm like, well, I don't want to disturb them. Let me schedule all these text messages. So a bunch of them went out at like 8:30 this morning.
Yeah.
And I was
I
like,
love
oh,
that.
thank goodness.
That is a big hack. And
Yeah.
I did that last night too. The Android people, they got to figure it out.
Androids. I can resonate big time with that too, because it's when people send me deals, right? They would send me fix and flip deals, and I would just be, she can attest to this too. I would literally, like, I'd get a text and be like, oh, there's a deal, I gotta go. And I'd literally just get up and run out the door and be like, I'm going to look at it. Like, it didn't matter what time it was or like what was going on. I just was at the mercy of what came at me, right? So you're reacting instead of being reactive.
Right.
So.
And then you learn to like, oh, I need to look at this in detail a little bit more to see if it's even worth my time before I go out and look.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's steps to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Definitely. But I think one thing that's really important is when you're thinking about those smaller moves, like the systems or the calendar, those are obviously great foundational blocks to the bigger picture. But you kind of have to know what's your vision, like where you're going to, where are you going? What do you want to be like in 5 to 10 years?
Oh, yeah.
And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about, that.
Yeah.
What's your vision for the next 10 years for
Yeah.
you guys in the company?
Sure.
And how are you thinking about it? You might not know the exact answer, but what are some of the frameworks you're thinking in that are shaping what you're doing today?
I would say,
I was just going to say that we call that our Mount Everest.
yeah.
So Pace Morby has taught us to call it our Mount Everest and has given us lots of foundational tools that we have built on to map that out and what that looks like.
Yeah, Mount Everest, it's not your 6 month or 1 year goal, it's more your 5 to 10 year goal, right? And then from there you backtrack. It's always about bringing value, right? The more value you bring to what we teach this to our kids, they're 6 and 4, the more value you bring, right, the bigger your bank account's gonna be, because the bigger problems that you solve, the more money you're gonna get. So the more people you can help, it just translates to more money for you, right? So like our Mount Everest, it's constantly changing, but I would say now we've kind of zoned in again on, and we can talk about this more or less if we have time, but Morby method deals, which are basically getting into multifamily properties with none of our own money, and you can scale super fast. So my goal is to help 1,500 people over the next 5 years get into Section 8 or like a HUD-VASH, some sort of government housing. So if I can help 1,500 people, that would result in us netting like $300,000 a month in net income.
That's awesome.
So again, it starts with like who you want to help, how many people you can help, and then the money's like the last thing, right? It just comes with those.
And we were thinking about it in reverse. We were thinking about what is the dollar figure we need to live off of and then feel more comfortable with. And when we were looking at it that way, it seemed really daunting and we couldn't put a number to the units. But when we started looking at it, when we were on a call, we were learning about this veterans housing program called HUD-VASH. And then Tony has always had an interest in wanting to get more units filled with Section 8. When we started looking at those programs and looking at it from how many people can we help get into affordable housing, that turned the dial for us and helped us think of our numbers in the opposite direction. So now we're at looking at a goal of 1,500 people and breaking that down to an annual goal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the reality is, it's like if everybody had big visions and big goals like that, right? Like think about the impact of just us alone, 1,500 people. Yeah. Like that's a lot. That's 1,500 people that may have not have had housing if we didn't get into real estate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the reframe there because I think it's so easy to focus on the numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, income's always, you need it to live, right? But that's always becomes the focal point. And I think the best approach is what you guys are talking about too. It's that's income's the byproduct.
Right.
If you can do the right things consistently, the income will always follow.
Yep.
So I love that reframe as you guys are thinking about it.
I think just to add to that too, I think how we got to that point is like we've made really good money with fix and flips and doing all these other things, but it's like at the end of the day, if you don't have a passion, if you don't have a vision of giving back and adding value, like at the end of the day, you don't have purpose. Everybody needs purpose, right?
Our most successful fix and flip for us was the one that the individual, she did get a good monetary value back, but she got the most assistance and help from Tony. He went above and beyond. He really nurtured that relationship in helping her for 6 months, even prior to getting the deal done. And then he went significantly above and beyond with helping her find her next place to live, with physically booking a company to move her belongings, to then physically transporting her and her dog to where they were going. So in those cases, it just truly is evidence that when you are giving and helping others, you do receive it back.
Yeah, the universe works in that
Right.
way.
It does.
Like we didn't know what the end value was going to be of that flip at the time we're doing all this to help her. And then it truly does end up being the most profitable project for us to date.
Yeah, just for some context there too. So for our fix and flips, we found the best way to get those deals is helping people out of pre-foreclosures. So this woman in particular that she's talking about, she was in foreclosure. Her auction was up in like 2 weeks. She was going to lose her house. Wow. So I stepped in and I'm like, hey, listen, if I can help stop your auction, help you find somewhere to live, like, would you consider selling your house? She's like, yeah, I have no other choice. Like, I'm going to lose my house. So she ended up walking away with $90,000 in her pocket. We stopped the auction. I got a really good deal on the house, and we made $165,000 on that flip. And we solved somebody's problem. Like we helped her move on to her next step, to where she would have been on the street.
Right, in 2 weeks she was out with no money.
Literally.
Yeah.
So from no money to on the street to $90,000 in her pocket, I mean.
And this woman was obviously getting a lot of phone calls from different companies and individuals wanting to purchase her house or offering different services. But Tony connected with her on a personal level, even showed up at her house, plowed her driveway for 1 or 2 storms even, because it was close by to us.
Yeah, I would say.
It's a difference maker.
Yeah, I would say again with that, I wasn't expecting anything in return. I'm like, this lady's in a really bad, her husband just had a stroke. They had no money. Like, she was in a really tough spot. So I was like, hey, I'm just gonna help this lady out. If nothing comes of it, nothing comes of it. What's the worst that's gonna happen? I helped somebody out.
Right, and then in the end it worked for you, but
Right.
if you think about it, like you said, from that perspective first, then it's a win no matter what.
Right.
Because you help this woman out whether you get the house or not.
Yeah.
But in the long run, that strategy always comes back to you. I know I was hearing one of the speakers for Moss Homes Solutions down in Rhode Island, which they run, obviously, I think the biggest wholesaling company in maybe New England.
They actually spoke at one of the Creative Nation Tour events, Rhode Island. Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah.
They were sponsored.
Oh, I was bummed I missed that one.
Oh, yeah.
I saw them up on stage.
Yeah.
But they were talking about their philosophy, and it was the same thing. If someone needs a car, they'll buy them a car.
Right.
If someone needs their house cleaned out, they'll clean out their house.
Yeah.
Because same philosophy. Well, they want to help this particular person. And the byproduct might be they get to buy the house, wholesale to make some money, but that's not always the goal.
Right.
The biggest problems you solve are usually the people problems.
Yeah.
The money, the price of the house usually isn't the main problem.
Yeah.
Which I know, Morby talks about a lot. And I want to talk a little bit about that too, because that's obviously a huge piece of you guys and what you have going on.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the community. Talk to me about what is the Morby method and how is it helping you guys, buy some properties creatively?
Yeah, we joined Sub 2 2019, I believe, 2020.
2020.
2020. Life-changing event for us. The community itself, when we signed up, we wanted to learn creative finance, right, like anybody else. And what we quickly realized is it's a community of people that are like-minded, that just want to help and add value. So like what we were just talking about with adding value, all of these people in this community lead with value, and they just want to help you grow. So we quickly learned that creative finance was just like a byproduct of Pace's community.
It's a tool to add to your tool belt to help you reach your goals. And yes, it's not a mentorship. It's completely a community of people helping others. We host weekly calls for all of New England region. I mean, anyone in the whole country can join. And we do get people from even down south, which is exciting because they know our call is like a standing call. We're like religious to it.
That's awesome.
And people come in and talk about all different kinds of acquisition strategies. It's not even all the time with real estate. Sometimes it's with business buying. And it's so exciting to learn so much from the community of people doing these creative deal structures in so many different avenues.
I would say too, when you join, it's just like anything else. If you join and you don't take action, you're not going to get anything from it, right? There's always going to be those people. But 95% of the people join, they take action, they follow the steps. When you join, there's actually a calendar every week of like 70 Zooms that you can participate in. Wow. One of those Zooms is where I learned how to talk to sellers. It's called the Daily Dial. So basically you log in every morning, 7 a.m. There's a leader in one of the communities that you make fake phone calls with them, right? So ring, ring, hello. Yeah, this is John. Like, how can I help you?
You literally practice in a Zoom with other people.
That's awesome.
And it's available every single day on multiple times a day.
It's great because you role play, right? And then they critique you, they say, hey, don't say this next time, or say this, say it this way, have more empathy, whatever it is. And they teach you, they coach you on how to actually talk to sellers, which was huge.
Yeah, that's monumental. And I think that the community component is huge too.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge believer in, you're, however you want to phrase the quote, but you're the average of the top 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And I fully believe that. So
Yep.
having that space where you can collaborate with other people who are doing high level things is, I think, one of the biggest, cheat codes as an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of times people realize it too late.
Yeah.
Not that it's too late where you can't fix it,
Yep.
but every time I meet someone who's a successful entrepreneur, they're always like, I wish I started early on being more intentional with my relationships or getting in better rooms.
100%.
I
don't think
I'm
that's
the same way.
taught to young adults.
No.
It definitely should be.
I think so too, and aligning it with your goals too, because everyone has friends that you might not align business wise, but it's just being intentional with, okay, I have my friend group that I'm focused on, having fun with,
Right.
and then I have my business friends. That's usually always how it ends up going. I have my business partners and I have my friends.
Right.
But when you find the community, you become friends with people who think like you,
it all becomes
It's crazy.
one.
and that's an awesome recipe.
You would love Sub 2. You'd fit right in. You'd thrive in there.
I'll have to talk to you more about it.
Yeah, but basically that's what it is, man. It's like a community of people that we're all friends. We're all doing deals together. And I would say the biggest thing for me was like when we joined, I was like, man, if I could just make $10,000 a month in passive income, like our lives are figured out. We've already surpassed that. Not only surpassed that, but now I'm like, dude, $100,000 a month isn't even my ceiling. Like, let's do $300,000 or $500,000 a month in net income and help a lot of people along the way. You know what I mean? And awesome. Pace has opened our minds to that. Like, if you don't have big goals and you don't have big visions, you're selfish because you are not solving big enough problems, right? Like, you're not helping anybody. Somebody who doesn't have a lot of money or resources or value to bring isn't helping anybody.
Right. That's almost like, imagine if you're on a sports team and you're like, our goal is just to break 500 this year. It's like, shouldn't your goal every year be to win the championship?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it changes you because it changes your whole mindset.
Yeah.
It does.
It changes your work ethic. It changes how you think about certain tasks or systems.
It puts a ceiling, and then if you're not thinking of the sky instead, you're going to hit a different mark. You're not going to make it to that big goal when you're thinking too small. And that was a big learning curve over the last year for us, like thinking bigger. So we would whiteboard and we would put our goals down, and then he'd come back and he'd be like, they're not big enough. And I'm like, okay, like we got to change them again. But it is something that's always evolving, and we're always editing. And, our very first year in sub 2, he has this notebook piece of paper still from that year of how many properties we were going to buy, how many we were going to flip, the dollar figure we were going to make. Crushed it in the first 6 months because we had the visual. He and I are always preaching that on our calls.
Yeah, we had a whiteboard in our office, and we have every goal. Like, so every time I'm on the computer, I just look over and I see everything that we're working towards.
I love it.
It makes all the difference.
That reminder's so important. And I think I forget who said this, I wish I remembered, but they always said when you say your goals out loud, if they don't make you smile, they're not big enough.
Yeah.
And I love that.
You know what, to add to that, I've heard also that if you look at your goals and they don't scare you, they're not big enough.
Yeah.
I love that too. Yeah, they should.
Yeah.
Because I think life and business, inevitably, the best part of it is the growth.
Yeah.
Like the outcome, as you said, that's the byproduct.
Right.
Like sure, maybe I'll be able to retire early, or be able to travel the world, bring my kids with me and then take 6 months and go on vacation, whatever your goals are.
Right.
But that's kind of the byproduct. That's the vision. But I really am someone who enjoys the process.
Yeah.
I love, especially at this next phase, similar to your mindset, is how do I think differently, and changing my goal, changing my vision to bringing the value first, letting the results follow, but at the same time, I think there's a huge value to bringing other people along with you.
Yeah.
That I don't think you think about early on as an entrepreneur, where you have that mindset of, I know I need to bring people on my team, but I'm just not ready, or I don't want to spend the money, or I'm afraid that what if it doesn't work, or I can just write that email, I can do that task.
Right.
But there's actually a huge value and reward that comes from adding people to your team and empowering them to be a part of what you're building. And I think a lot of people don't realize early on.
Yeah, I would say, to add to that too, like if your vision isn't big enough for other people's visions to fit inside of it, your vision's not big enough.
That's a great point, because if you're hiring someone and your vision is for you to, I don't know, make $100,000 and be able to sit on the beach, well, that's not really a vision I want to invest in as an employee.
Exactly.
Right. You
It's
need
gotta
to
be
know
bigger.
what theirs is too.
But
Right.
But if
from
I
that
said
perspective.
we want to help 5,000 people get affordable housing, now you just open up the door to a lot of people who want to help.
You're building something people can really get behind.
Right.
Yeah. And so talk to me more about that from that standpoint too. Obviously, we talked about creative finance with Morby, but you mentioned the Morby method.
Yeah.
Sure.
I know you guys are putting it to use, so I want to
Yeah.
shift the conversation a little bit to that.
Yeah, this kind of all ties in together, so this will be good. So our mutual friend Ben actually brought him on a few deals that we're doing right now. So we might be partnering on a 100 unit in Maine. So it's 25 buildings, it's 100 units total. Again, all Section 8. So my goal of 1,500 people, I just took 100 of it just from that one deal. But anyway, so yeah, the Morby method, it's just a creative structure that allows you to scale really quickly. I would say it's not for the beginner investor, right? Like you really have to know your numbers.
Yep.
You have to know cap rates and how to underwrite and do all those things. But if you're a good operator and you know how to underwrite really well, these things are like, dude, I'm going to blow your mind on these.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk more about it.
Yeah.
But effectively, it allows you to buy really any asset with no money out of pocket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be multiple units.
No.
It can be a single unit, but it's super beneficial when you're looking at like a portfolio purchase.
Yeah, at a quick level, at a quick glance, it's basically you're bringing in a commercial loan like a DSCR loan in first position, right? So if the seller is willing to seller finance a portion of the purchase price, let's say it's $1 million, we're going to bring in a loan for $750,000, right? They're going to take $300,000-$400,000 up front, the seller. The closing costs are going to be in that $750,000. So basically, that 75% loan that you're bringing in covers all of the costs up front. Now, the seller is going to take that other 25% and do a seller equity note with you. So you're 100% leveraged on day one. So yes, that's scary, But if you have a good game plan in place to where, hey, if we up the rents, if it's a good value add purchase, you can easily buy that property at a 10 cap, whatever it is, and sell it in 5 years for 5 or 6 cap, whatever it is. So if you have a good exit plan in place, then it's a safe bet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the leverage piece, I think we talk about that a lot on the podcast. Leverage in multiple capacities, whether it's knowledge or people or in this case capital.
Yeah.
But that can really move the needle on a deal.
100%.
And for the seller, they might not be able to get that same price for anyone else.
Right.
And for you guys as investors, I mean, no money down into a deal. That's
crazy.
That's gravy.
Well, what's funny is, again, it's people's mindset, right? Like they might see $1 million purchase price and they're like, but this thing's only worth $850,000. It's like, dude, I'll pay $150,000 on year one. It's going to appreciate 4%. I just made that $150,000 back in 1 year.
Yeah.
Like people don't understand. Again, it's just their mindset. It's not open, right? But if you can look past all of those things and say, yeah, I'll pay you an extra $150,000, $200,000 if you're willing to do this structure with us, sure. Because in the long run, 5, 7, 10 years, we're going to make a ton of money.
Right, you'll be much more in the green after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the mindset shift, and even just talking to you guys about some of this stuff, I always learn something new. It reframes my mind because it's not traditional.
Right.
It's totally outside of the box.
Yep.
But when you know how to use it, it can be incredibly impactful.
What's crazy too, I will say, is if the seller owns that, let's say it's $1 million purchase price and they own that outright, you have a potential to take $100,000 to $200,000 back to you as the buyer at closing even. So like if that 75%, if all of those numbers fit inside of that, let's just say the seller only wants $100,000 up front because of tax implications and stuff like that. You could take that $200,000 that you were going to give the seller now to the buyer. So now we could take that $200,000 and do the roofs and do the furnaces and do whatever.
Value add.
Or just take it and invest it into another property. It's literally cash to you at closing.
And that's your operating budget or another deal.
Yeah,
Another
it's crazy.
deal.
Which is awesome.
I would say the biggest skill you need to learn is underwriting, and underwriting's huge for multifamily.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the talking to sellers piece is important because you have it's so new to everyone that you have to really explain it.
Yeah.
But when you understand it, it can be incredibly impactful. I know. So talking to you about it, I get fired up. I'm like, all right, I need to figure this out.
Yeah. Again, though, it's solving a problem. A lot of times these sellers, if they sold it for whatever they're asking, $1 million, $2 million, they're paying 30, 40% on this money, and they know that. So they're like, listen, I could give you your cash money, your cash offer, but you're going to pay $300,000, $400,000 in taxes. Let's structure it this way to where you're getting actually more than you're asking for. You're not paying any taxes, and we just spread it out over 5, 7 years.
Yeah, it's a win-win for both.
It's a win-win.
Like you said, you're starting with solving the problem.
Right.
And then the end result is obviously you can make a lot of money, but you're fixing the problem that the seller has.
Yeah, Tony's always even saying it to our kids, like, what problem are you solving? The bigger, are you solving a problem? The bigger problem you solve, like, the better the outcome.
Well, we on like a low level with our kids, we like, instead of chores, we're like, well, what value can you bring to get money, right? So it gets their brains thinking in a different perspective than like, oh, if I just move the couch over, I'll get $5. Like, you're not solving a problem.
Right. I like that.
Yeah.
The 6-year-old knows, oh, I didn't solve a problem. It's funny to like hear it come out of him. I'm like, oh my God, he really is listening.
It's working.
Right.
That's awesome. And so how does that mindset translate into the short-term rentals? Because I know, the end product you guys put out was incredibly high end compared to what a lot of other Airbnb operators might do. And I think part of why it's being successful for you guys. So talk to me a little bit about like the short-term rentals. What do you guys look for? What was your approach going into that from like a tactical standpoint?
Yeah.
Well, looking at the market, we definitely wanted to find a property that we could do like a value add-on, because that's just what we're always looking for in real estate. So we took on a little bit of a renovation with it, but we know that in order to be successful in the short-term rental market, you need to be like over the top with the design and amenities. So that definitely came down to some pressure on me for designing, and Tony really excelled in finding the top of the line sauna and hot tub options. And again, just doing so much research and finding out who your clientele is going to be. So in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, it's where we're situated is a family market. Like we're gonna have families with young kids, and you don't see young kid amenities advertised. So it was a perfect fit for us having young children, so we knew what play sets were gonna be good, what family games were gonna be ideal, and then picking out those colors and textures, wallpapers, the furniture pieces that really catch your eye as you're scrolling through online.
Yeah. I would say, so part of our course, like I said, we're helping 5 to 7 people start to finish. I would say part of our underwriting, right, is there's a software called AirDNA, which we teach people how to use. And basically you can go to any market, type in the zip code, and you can see what all the properties are doing in that area. You can put 5 bedroom, 3 bath, like whatever criteria you're looking for. And you can see what houses, what size houses, like what amenities are doing the best, right? So you can see if a house is doing $200,000 in gross revenue versus a house that does $100,000, and you can directly see like, why is this one doing 200 and they're in the same neighborhood and this one's doing 100? Most of the time it's because this one has really nice design, has a really nice sauna, a hot tub, it's a wellness retreat, you go there, you have a cold plunge, like it's intentional, right? You're going to this place to escape as an experience. Where versus this one, it's just a house on the market that like you can rent.
Right.
You know?
It's grandma's house. That's when I always say that,
yeah.
you know, down to Cape Cod, that's like the biggest trend.
yeah.
The market flooded with supply, but
Yeah.
70% of the supply is the same.
Yeah, it's all leftover furniture from someone's house they didn't want, roadside finds. I say that a lot about New Hampshire, like it's so slept on.
It's funny too because it's every market, Florida, New Hampshire, Cape Cod, like
Yeah.
they're all the same. There's a ton of those basic properties.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's how Airbnb started, was just somewhere to get a cheap place to stay.
Yeah.
But now it's totally changed to like the experience, and I think what you cultivated on the design is awesome. You know, it fits that mold so great.
Yeah.
But a lot of people miss that, you know, because they don't want to spend money.
Right.
They're always like, oh, I already have a house. I don't want to renovate it again.
Right.
Or I don't
It's
want
gonna
to
give you
change.
a return though.
Exactly.
The design sells it.
Which is funny because if you look, again, it's that mindset, right? That mindset shift. But when you look at something like, hey, if I put $100,000 into this, but we're going to get $20,000, $30,000 extra a year in revenue, what's that return? I mean, like you can't get that return anywhere else.
No brainer.
You know?
Yeah, I think thinking about it from the return perspective is huge. That's how I look at anything with the rental properties. It's
Right.
like a unit turn comes up. It's an old unit. I'm a landlord. I don't want to touch it.
Right.
But say I spend $10,000. Well, if instead of marketing at $1,500, I can market at $1,800. It's like that's $3,600 a year on 10 grand. It's 36%.
It's a no-brainer.
I can't get that return anywhere else.
Right.
So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people miss that because they get stuck at like the first number.
Right.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, well, it's going to cost me X. Well,
Right.
Again, look at the outcome, the byproduct first.
Yeah.
Or rather the vision first. It's going to be a better end product to attract better users, whether that's tenants or guests.
Yeah.
For the long term.
And then
too.
income comes as a byproduct. Yeah.
Right.
There's so much research and like comping of properties that you just really have to excel at in real estate. So even for long-term rentals, we acquired rentals from a family member and they were drastically under market. And so when we talk now about what we're getting for rent, they're just like flabbergasted. And we're like, well, they weren't even at rent, like at market value then, never mind now, plus a couple of upgrades. It makes such a huge difference. And I think people just like hate being a landlord and like give it a bad name or hate being a short-term rental owner because of like these small things that you can really just change that whole dynamic right up front with a little bit of equity.
Yeah.
Here's the thing too, it comes back to mindset. You can talk yourself out of doing anything, right? There's no matter what industry you're looking at getting into, somebody could tell you a horror story where you're like, I don't want to touch that, right? Like you hear about Airbnb horror stories, landlord horror stories. It's like, okay, if you really peel that onion back and see what happened there, I'm sure that landlord was either a slumlord or like whatever the case is like there's something that happened there, right? So if you put systems and processes in place to where you're like, you're not friends with your tenants, right? Like, yes, friendly, but this is a business. Like, we have partners here. Like, we need to collect rent. Like, it just is what it is.
Correct.
I can't let you live here for free.
Yeah, unfortunately not. I always say that. I always joke about that too with my tenants. Like, I always, the mindset I heard was like fair but firm.
Yes.
Like, you're fair, you're reasonable, you're friendly, but you're firm because it's a business.
It's a business.
Yeah, and that's at the end of the day. That's they understand that too.
Yeah.
But you have to set that that boundary.
Yeah.
But I think most of the mistakes or horror stories are all just learning experiences.
Yeah.
Like I know for me, I've had some crazy tenant stories, but oh yeah, all sorts of crazy stuff. But even property stories with like deferred maintenance that I might not have caught at a walkthrough that comes back to bite me. But you learn, and I'm grateful that I had all those experiences, because now I'm adding these tools, skill sets, mindsets to my tool belt. So the next property, I'm that much better.
Right.
But if I never did it, I'll never learn. You can't learn real estate from a book.
Exactly. You got to take action at some point. What's funny though is like people will say they're afraid of that horror story, right? They don't want the toilet clog at 2 a.m, right? Call. But it's like you'll work a 9 to 5 for 40 years and hate your boss and hate your job, but you don't want a phone call at 2 a.m. that the toilet's backing up.
Yeah.
It's like where people aren't logically thinking through this. It's like, I would take that phone call any day of the week, as opposed to working 9 to 5 for the next 40 years, right?
Mindset's everything. My bookkeeper, we were talking yesterday, just going over systems for the year and stuff, and she was like, "Do you know how much interest you pay to the banks?" I go, "I don't care." I go, "I really don't."
Making money.
She's like, $200,000 or whatever, more than that. And I was like, "Yeah, but my tenants pay the interest." I don't pay the interest. I go, I don't. What's my cash flow? I don't
look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
But she was like, "That's disgusting." I'm like, "Well, you know what that tells me?" She's like, "What?" I go, "I want to buy a bank." And she starts laughing. I'm serious. I go, if you ask me my 20-year goal, I want to buy a bank.
Yeah.
I've met one person in my life who owns a bank, and he always said to me, if you have a chance to buy a bank, buy a bank.
I don't even know. How do you even buy a bank?
I laughed because I'm like, you need a lot of capital, you need, you need a big balance sheet. But that's one of my laughable goals. I'm like, how cool would it be?
It'd be crazy.
Don't call it laughable. That's really cool.
No, but laughable because it's so big.
Yeah.
And that's my Mount Everest. One of my goals. I think it would be really cool to own a bank.
That's awesome.
So let me ask you, as we wrap up the show here today, you zoom out 10 to 20 years. I know it's a big question. What do you envision that phase of your life looking like?
Oh boy. 10 to 20 years? Traveling a lot. It's something we're always talking about and always sharing. And yes, we do create a schedule where we are able to travel right now, but not to like a long term in certain destinations.
Yeah, we're still in the thick of it. Like we're still figuring things out. We're still, getting those systems in place. But I would say a lot of people spend their whole lives working to retire or whatever and then travel, right? But I think why we're working so hard now, we're only 36 years old, 35 and 36. So it's like we want to spend our time now with our kids. Like when your kid's 18, 20 years old, he's out doing his own thing. They don't want to spend time with you. So we want to, build rapidly, build quick now so we can take those vacations and spend time with our kids. Like we're both home with our kids full time, basically. We work during the day, but like not a lot of people get that experience, get that opportunity to spend that much time with their kids. So
and I would say I still want to be doing projects. I really enjoy the creative side of it. It wouldn't be to make a certain dollar amount. It would just purely be for the creative side of things. So for my newest business, it is a staging company. I would love to scale that to be a huge company where we have multiple designers under us doing different projects, and I'm just consulting on them. I'm going through and picking out furniture pieces, but I'm not the one bringing it in. I get to see the photos when it's done.
Right.
Maybe
you become more of the
that
visionary.
scale, yes. Yeah. I would love to scale it to something that big.
And it becomes something you even enjoy more, because essentially what you do is you've niched down so much on the thing that you love the most.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a really cool vision to have too.
Yeah, I would say in 10 years, I'd like to, hopefully we hit our Mount Everest goal, right? So we're making good money, we're helping people, and we're giving back. Like, I feel like a lot of people miss that target to where they hit that financial goal maybe, but they're either out of shape, they're miserable, whatever the case is. So I want to check all the boxes. I want to be healthy, I want to be spiritually sound, and financially sound too. I want all that, so.
I love it, and you should and you will.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we'll have to check back in. Love to have you guys on again, and
Absolutely.
maybe touch base in a year or two or whenever, and we'll see as you guys climb the mountain.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was awesome.
And thank you both for coming on today. I love the conversation. Loved having you both on for a change. I think that was
fun.
awesome to hear both
I'm
perspectives.
super glad that I got to come.
Your first podcast.
Yeah.
So thank you for spending it with me.
Yeah.
If people want to learn more about you guys, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Tony Eisenhauer on all socials. I have my link tree on there too, so if you want to sign up for Sub 2 or join our mentorship, our links are right in our bios too.
Yep, Instagram, definitely.
And you're Ash Eisenhower, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll drop that in the show notes as well.
Cool.
But thank you guys again for coming on.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.